The sun hung low over the Arizona territory, painting the rugged landscape in shades of amber and crimson. In a small trading post that served as a meeting point between the Apache settlement and the scattered ranches of white settlers, an unusual gathering was taking place. The wooden building, weathered by countless desert storms, creaked in the evening wind as people from both communities had come to trade goods, share news, and maintain the fragile peace that existed in this harsh land. Inside, amid the smell of leather, tobacco, and coffee, sat a cowboy named Thomas Reed. He was a man in his late 30s, tall and lean with sun-darkened skin and eyes that had seen more than their share of hardship. He sat alone at a corner table, nursing a cup of bitter coffee, his hat pulled low as he tried to remain unnoticed. Thomas was a drifter, a man without roots, moving from ranch to ranch, town to town, carrying nothing but the clothes on his back and the weight of memories he couldn't escape. Across the room, partially hidden in the shadows, stood Kaya, an Apache woman of 28 winters. She wore traditional dress, beautifully crafted with intricate beadwork that spoke of skills passed down through generations. Her long black hair was braided with care, and turquoise adorned her neck and wrists. To any observer, she appeared proud and dignified, but those who knew her story saw something else in her eyes, a deep, aching loneliness that no amount of cultural pride could conceal. Kaya had been married once, to a warrior named Nako who had been respected throughout their band. They had been happy, or so everyone believed, until the day he was killed in a skirmish with Mexican raiders 3 years ago. She had mourned him properly, had cut her hair in the traditional way, had done everything custom demanded. But when the mourning period ended and she was free to remarry, something unexpected happened. No one came forward to claim her as a wife. At first, she thought it was simply that the men were being respectful, giving her more time. But as months turned into years, the truth became impossible to ignore. Whispers circulated through the camp, cruel rumors that she couldn't quite trace to their source. Some said she was cursed, that her husband's violent death proved she brought misfortune. Others claimed she was barren, though she had never been pregnant during her marriage. Still others suggested she was too proud, too educated in the ways of white people from her time at the mission school, and therefore unsuitable as a traditional wife. The rejection cut deeper than any blade. In her culture, a woman's value was intrinsically tied to her role within the family and community. To be unwanted, unmarriageable, was to be invisible, irrelevant. She watched as younger women, even those with far less skill or beauty, were courted and married. She saw the pitying looks from the older women, heard the whispers that stopped when she approached. Her own family, while not abandoning her, seemed embarrassed by her situation, as if her unmarried state reflected poorly on them. Kaya had tried everything. She had made herself useful, demonstrating her skills in beadwork, hide tanning, and cooking. She had been respectful to the elders, kind to the children, and helpful to all. She had even humbled herself to let her aunt approach several men on her behalf, only to be met with polite but firm refusals. Each rejection chipped away at her spirit until she felt hollowed out, a shell of the vibrant woman she had once been. Tonight, desperation had driven her to the trading post. She had heard that a solitary cowboy had been staying in the area, working temporarily at the Morrison Ranch. Word was that he was alone, never spoke of family, and kept to himself. In her desperation, an idea had formed, wild, improper, but persistent. If her own people wouldn't have her, perhaps someone outside her community would. Perhaps this stranger, this cowboy who seemed as alone as she was, might understand what it meant to be unwanted. As the evening wore on and people began to leave, Kaya gathered her courage. Her hands trembled as she smoothed her dress, checking that her appearance was proper. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she crossed the room, each step feeling like a mile. The few remaining people in the trading post fell silent, sensing that something unusual was about to occur. Thomas looked up as a shadow fell across his table. He found himself looking into the face of the Apache woman he had noticed earlier. Up close, he could see that she was beautiful in a way that transcended mere physical appearance. There was depth in her dark eyes, character in the set of her jaw, and something heartbreakingly vulnerable in the way she held herself, proud yet pleading. "May I speak with you?" she asked in English, her accent lending a musical quality to the words. Thomas, surprised but not ungentlemanly, stood and gestured to the chair across from him. "Ma'am," he said simply, his voice rough from disuse. Kaya sat, her back straight despite the turmoil inside her. For a long moment, she simply looked at him, trying to read his face, to understand what kind of man he was. What she saw was weariness that matched her own, a loneliness that seemed to radiate from him like heat from stone at sunset. It gave her the courage to continue. "I will speak plainly," she began, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I am Kaya of the Chiricahua Apache. I was wife to a warrior, but he is 3 years gone. I am skilled in all the ways a woman should be. I can work hard, I do not complain, I am healthy and strong." Thomas listened, puzzled by where this was going but respectful enough to remain silent. Kaya took a shaky breath, and when she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of every rejection, every pitying look, every whispered conversation that ended when she approached. "No one wants me. My own people turn away. They see me as cursed or proud, or broken in some way I cannot fix. I have begged the spirits, I have tried everything I know, but I remain alone." Her eyes met his directly now, and in them, Thomas saw a desperation that struck something deep in his chest. "I know it is not proper. I know I should not ask. But I am asking anyway." Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed on. "Give me a husband. Give me one last chance. If you will have me, I will be a good wife. I will work hard, I will honor you, I will ask for nothing but a place to belong." The words hung in the air between them, raw and honest and utterly unexpected. The few people still in the trading post stared openly now, shocked by the impropriety of an Apache woman proposing to a white cowboy, by the naked desperation in her plea. Thomas sat back, stunned. His first instinct was to refuse, to explain that he was not a man who could offer anyone a home or stability. But something stopped him, perhaps the echo of his own loneliness in her words, perhaps the courage it must have taken for her to humble herself this way, perhaps simply the recognition that they were both people the world had decided had no place. "Ma'am," he said slowly, choosing his words carefully, "I ain't much of a catch myself. I got no land, no home, just a bedroll and a horse. I move from place to place, never staying long. I got ghosts that follow me, and I ain't always good company." "I do not care about land or money," Kaya said quickly. "I care only that I am wanted, that I have purpose, that I am not invisible." Thomas studied her face, seeing past the desperation to the strength beneath it. This was not a weak woman begging for scraps. This was a strong woman who had been broken by circumstances beyond her control, yet still had the courage to fight for what she needed. He understood that kind of strength because he had it himself, the stubborn refusal to completely surrender even when life had beaten you down. "Why me?" he asked. "You don't know nothing about me. I could be a bad man, a cruel man." "I watched you," Kaya admitted. "For days, I watched. You are gentle with your horse. You pay the shopkeeper fairly without argument. You step aside for others, you do not drink to excess, you do not boast or fight. You are alone, but you are not mean in your aloneness. That is enough for me to trust." Thomas felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the wall he had built around his heart. Here was someone who saw him, really saw him, and found him acceptable. It had been so long since anyone had looked at him as anything other than just another drifter, another hired hand who would be gone tomorrow and forgotten by next week. "People will talk," he said. "Your people, mine. They won't like it." "They already talk about me," Kaya said with a bitter smile. "What does it matter if they have a new reason? At least this way, I will have chosen my own path rather than having it chosen for me by their rejection." Thomas was quiet for a long time, his mind working through the implications. He thought of his own past, the family he had lost to fever, the ranch that had been foreclosed, the years of drifting that had followed. He had convinced himself that he was better off alone, that caring for anyone or having anyone care for him was just setting himself up for more pain. But looking at Kaya, seeing her courage and honesty, he wondered if perhaps they could both find something they needed in each other. "I can't promise you it'll be easy," he finally said. "Life with me won't be comfortable or settled. We'll likely face trouble from both sides, people who don't approve." "I know," Kaya said. "But I would rather face trouble with someone by my side than face emptiness alone." Her words resonated with him because they expressed exactly what he had been feeling for years without admitting it. He made a decision then, one that surprised him with how right it felt despite how sudden it was. "All right," he said simply. "If you're sure this is what you want, then I'll marry you. I'll do my best to be a good husband, to treat you with respect, to give you that place to belong you're looking for." Kaya's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them back, her pride reasserting itself. "Thank you," she whispered. "You will not regret this. I promise you will not regret this." The marriage took place 3 days later, a strange hybrid ceremony that incorporated elements of both cultures and satisfied neither completely, but somehow felt right to the two people at its center. Kaya's family attended with mixed emotions, relief that she would no longer be their responsibility, concern about her future with a white man, and grudging respect for her courage in forging her own path. A few of Thomas's acquaintances from the ranches came as well, more out of curiosity than support. The beginning was not easy. They were strangers learning to share a life, two wounded souls trying to figure out how to exist together. Thomas found work at a larger ranch that provided a small cabin for married hands, giving them their first real home. Kaya threw herself into making it comfortable, using her skills to create beauty in the simple space. Slowly, carefully, they built something neither had expected. Not just a marriage of convenience, but a genuine partnership. Thomas discovered that Kaya had a sharp wit and a deep knowledge of the land that proved invaluable. Kaya found that Thomas, beneath his quiet exterior, had a kindness and steadiness that made her feel safe for the first time in years. They learned each other's languages, both literal and figurative. They shared their grief and their fears, and in sharing them, found they weighed less heavily. When Kaya became pregnant a year later, proving the cruelty of the rumors about her barrenness, they both wept. When their daughter was born, a beautiful child who would grow up belonging to both worlds and neither, they named her Hope, because that was what they had given each other when both had thought hope was lost. Years later, people would point to them as an unusual couple, sometimes still with disapproval, but increasingly with a kind of respect. Because what they had built together, through rejection and desperation, through the courage of one woman's plea and one man's decision to answer it, was something rare and precious. They had given each other what everyone truly needs: to be wanted, to be seen, to belong to someone who chooses you not despite your brokenness but with full knowledge of it. Kaya never forgot that night in the trading post when she had humbled herself to beg for one last chance. But she also never regretted it, because that moment of desperate courage had led her to something better than she had dared imagine. Not just a husband, but a partner. Not just a home, but a family. Not just acceptance, but love that grew slowly and surely like desert flowers after rain, all the more beautiful for having bloomed in such harsh soil.